obandesu. A stranger came to the village, offering to carry what the villagers could no longer bear, their grief, their loss, the memories that had grown too heavy to hold. The villagers accepted. They felt lighter immediately. The stranger returned periodically, each visit taking a little more, until the village forgot what it had lost, or that it had lost anything at all. The stranger moved on, heavier, warmer, hungrier than before. We are expendable to something that has been collecting long enough. Don't give anything away tonight that you cannot get back. It is time for chapter 146. There are things older than memory that understand memory's weight, that know how much the living carry, how heavy grief becomes over years, how a person can be bent almost double by the accumulated weight of what they remember and cannot release. And these things, patient, ancient, practiced, have learned that the living will give almost anything to feel lighter, will hand over what is most precious to them if the offering is framed correctly, as relief, as kindness, as the reasonable exchange of a burden too heavy to carry alone. The stranger who came to that mountain village had made this offer before, many times, in many villages, across more years than the oldest person in that village could imagine, and had never once been refused. There are things older than memory that understand memory's weight, that know how much the living carry, how heavy grief becomes over years, how a person can be bent almost double by the accumulated weight of what they remember and cannot release. And these things, patient, ancient, practiced, have learned that the living will give almost anything to feel lighter, will hand over what is most precious to them if the offering is framed correctly, as relief, as kindness, as the reasonable exchange of a burden too heavy to carry alone. The stranger who came to that mountain village had made this offer before, many times, in many villages, across more years than the oldest person in that village could imagine, and had never once been refused. The offer was simple. Speak your heaviest memory into the box, the grief you cannot release, the loss you carry daily, the thing you most wish you could put down. Speak it in. The box will hold it. You will feel lighter. The village elder was skeptical. The stranger invited them to try. Simply one memory, the smallest burden. See how it feels. The elder spoke one memory into the box, a small loss, something carried for years without significance. The box absorbed it. The elder stood quietly for a moment, then said, quietly with the expression of someone who has just put down something they had forgotten they were holding, that they felt lighter. "Nda," the stranger said softly. "That's right. That is exactly right. If these stories have found their way to you, if you find yourself returning to this quiet room, there is something small you can do. Like and subscribe. It tells me, and whatever else watches from this room, that you were here and that you intend to find your way back. If you have a story of your own, Granny is always listening, watching, waiting." The village gave willingly. Over 3 days, the stranger sat at the center of the village and received what was offered. grief, loss, the memories of difficult years, the weight of people long gone. The villagers came one by one and spoke into the box and left lighter than they had arrived. Children noticed their parents standing straighter. Elderly people moved with less effort. The particular heaviness that had settled over the village across years of accumulated loss lifted noticeably. By the third day the stranger prepared to leave, said they would return, that the box had capacity for more, that when the village felt heavy again they should simply wait. The stranger would come back. The stranger always came back. Shakkoi. The box, as the stranger lifted it to leave, cold in the hands of the child who briefly touched it, cold in a way that the warmth of 3 days of human memory should not have left it cold. I wonder, have you ever had a memory that felt less like remembering and more like being there again? Not recollection, but presence, the smell, the sound, the exact quality of the light. Perhaps time has been loosening its grip on you also, slowly, without your noticing. If you have a story of your own, this quiet room has space for your experiences too. Granny is always listening. The stranger returned the following spring. The village welcomed them, offered more. The stranger received it, left again lighter in step but heavier in the box. This continued across several years, each visit the village giving more willingly than the last. Each visit the stranger leaving with something more significant than the previous time. What began as grief and loss gradually became something else. Specific memories, the face of a grandmother, the sound of a father's voice, the particular way a lost child had laughed. Things that had not felt like burdens until the stranger gently noted that these too could be lightened. That holding the image of someone gone was simply another form of grief, that the box had room. The villagers who had learned to trust the lightness agreed, and spoke those memories in also. Ah, you are still here. Good. Some stories need a witness all the way to the end. I wonder, at what point does giving something away become losing it forever? And would you know the difference when you no longer remember what you gave? The village that remained after many years of the stranger's visits was quiet, orderly. The people moved without the particular weight of grief, smiled readily, argued rarely, lived their days with the uncomplicated lightness of people who have been relieved of their burden. But something was absent, a quality that the few travelers who passed through noticed and could not immediately name. The village felt hollow in the way of a bell that has been struck but produces no sound. The people were present, functioning, simply emptied of something essential, something that had made them specifically themselves rather than simply people living in a place. The stranger had taken not just the grief, had taken the weight that made them who they were, and left the shape without the substance. We are expendable. The last traveler who passed through wrote in a journal found years later, to something patient enough to wait until we hand ourselves over willingly. I think about what memory actually is, not simply the record of what happened, but the substance of what we are. The grief we carry is not separate from us. It is us. The weight of those we have lost is not a burden to be relieved. It is the proof that we loved them, that they were real, that they mattered enough to bend us, and something that understands this, that has always understood this, knows that memory is the most valuable thing the living possess, more valuable than anything else they might offer, and that the living, when sufficiently burdened, will give it away willingly, to feel lighter, not understanding that the lightness they feel afterward is not relief. It is absence, the particular emptiness of having handed over the substance of themselves to something that has been collecting for centuries and has never once been full. Ndanyaa, we are expendable to such things. I know this. I have watched it happen. From this room, across a very long time. Another whispered story from Japan, shared quietly here beside the kotatsu. If a stranger ever offers to carry your heaviest memory, decline. However light you feel afterward, however certain you are that what you are giving away is only burden and not substance. Because the grief you carry for those you have lost is not a weight to be relieved. It is the proof that they existed, that they mattered, that you loved them enough to still be bent by their absence, and something that takes that from you, however kindly, however willingly you give it, is not relieving your burden. It is taking your substance, leaving the shape of you intact, while removing everything that made the shape meaningful. We are expendable to something patient enough to wait until we hand ourselves over willingly. The stranger is always moving to the next village. The box is never full, and the villages left behind are quiet and orderly and light and entirely hollow, and do not remember what they are missing. Which is, of course, precisely the point. If this story stayed with you, if the dark or the shadow feels a little closer tonight, you know where to find me. I am always here beside the kotatsu, watching, waiting. And if you wish others to find their way here too, there is something small you can do. Like and subscribe. I would not object. And if you have a story of your own, this quiet room has space for your experiences too. Granny is always listening.